Hey, 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 you beautiful twin flames, and welcome back to Tarot for You 444. I'm so delighted you could be here with me today. I want to talk to you a little bit about a twin flame concept that maybe gets brushed over quite a lot. And so I find that this is really important because, it affects both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. A quick twin flame check-in before we start is that many divine feminines are really considering leaving the journey. For those of you who aren't considering leaving the journey, you're probably feeling lonely, or perhaps like you don't know which way to turn next. So you may be getting 5D communication, minimal 3D communication, and you're kind of feeling like you want to, perhaps walk away, or perhaps, kind of not be so bothered about it anymore. It's not a priority. Maybe you listen, maybe you're getting on with your life and then listening to like tarot readings, or trying to figure it out in some of your time, but not as much as you used to be. So it's really early here in Australia as I'm doing this. The sun's only just come up, so my brain is still waking up, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to explain this to you fairly well. For those of you who, before I start, for those of you who need any of my services, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I've got some openings coming up, actually. So all you need to do is reach out at tarotforyou444@gmail.com, and the link or the explanation is in the description box below. So please feel free to do that. Even if you're just going through a rough time at the moment, I know many divine feminines have reached out to me, going through, and there goes my throat chakra. Where's Kermit when you need him? Kermit the Frog. If you're new to my channel, my throat chakra always plays up when I've got a message to give, and it goes away for the rest of the whole day. Isn't that weird? But it's just the way I, intuit or channel, I guess. It's just, it comes through my throat chakra. Other people may get tingles and, weird sensations in their crown chakra, or in their guts or something like that. But for me, it's always been this throat chakra thing. And for a while before I knew what was going on, a few years back, I was kind of like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Maybe I've got a cold all the time or something like that. But I can assure you, once I get the message out that needs to be heard, it'll go away. It's kind of like, Spirit's way of saying, you must tell everyone this today. This is what must happen, So today I want to talk about, whether you're a twin flame in separation or a twin flame, in semi-union. I like to call it semi-union. You're not completely in union yet, but you're on your way. I want to talk about a subject which you'll be able to find this in the Twin Flame Concepts playlist if you ever want to come back to it, okay? So just to let you know, I've got a playlist. If you go, when you navigate into my channel, I've got a big playlist there, so you can have a look, and all of my readings are timeless. So if you're guided to click on a reading, just know that it's the divine right timing for you. Alrighty, so I'm just making a racket as well as talking with you, but it's a bit bright in here, so I'm putting my sunnies on inside. And you're cool when you wear your sunglasses inside, right? That's one of the coolest things you could ever do. Alrighty, so what I want to talk today about is attachment trauma on the twin flame journey. And I'm, depending on how long I take on this subject, I may move on to another one or I might do 3 subjects today, so that we can understand a bit more about this concept here. So, how would I describe attachment trauma? Attachment trauma is something that we all have perhaps had in the past, and it may come into the now, depending on what the trauma was. So a great example of this might be that, someone was bullied at school, and now they have this trauma, or this this terrifying thing every time they go into social situations. They feel uncomfortable because maybe at school, if there was a formal or a social or an assembly or something, they may have got bullied during that time, or even in the playground. And so now they could perhaps have social anxiety. And so if we use the example of, let's just use the example of someone called Betty, right? Let's say Betty had been bullied at school. And so when she goes to different places now, where she knows there's going to be a lot of people, even though she's an adult, and this occurred in her early childhood or middle childhood, she always asks her friend to go with her. Okay. Another great example of this actually is, when women go out together in a group setting, and they say, who needs to go to the bathroom? And all the women get up and they go together. It's kind of like, they do it in packs, to feel safe. It's kind of a safety mechanism that women do, especially, if they're out, in the city or something like that, where, there are people around that maybe, drinking alcohol or being a bit shifty, you just never know. So when we attach to something to make ourselves feel better, it's usually because of a trauma, aka this is why we call it attachment trauma. Some other great examples might be that, let's say little boy, let's call him Ben. He used to, get really bad anxiety, and so his mother would sometimes pick him up early from school and take him to the Big M, McDonald's. Everyone knows what McDonald's is, I think, so I'll use that as the example. And so then throughout his life he will go and get McDonald's because, when he feels anxiety, because that makes him feel better. It's like a soothing effect. So usually the number one point I want to make here is that, people will do some kind of behavior as a soother, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel nurtured. And unfortunately, some people will use things outside of themselves, especially if they're not spiritual. They will use things outside of themselves to cope. So I'm just going to write a list of things that people might use to cope, so that you can get a little bit more of a gist of how people in the 3D world will cope. And I'm just trying to think of one more. Okay, so I would call these addictions. Some people might use porn. Some people might use gossip. Some people might use food, alcohol. Other people, drugs or prescription drugs. Another great one is exercise. Those people that over exercise. They're not just going to the gym to get fit. They kind of use it it's kind of an addiction. All right. So what happens in the third dimensional reality is that usually when some kind of trauma occurred, whether that's in childhood, middle childhood, or even in adulthood, and this can include PTSD, is that at the time they use something to cope. So I'll give you a really personal example for me, which is kind of weird, but I'll give you an example. So my mum and my dad have passed away, and although it's about 11 years difference between their passing, my dad was more recent, but my mum was in 2009. And so what happened is that the person that was trying to contact me to tell me about my mother passing away, I wasn't actually speaking to them at the time. And so, I had sort of deleted the number, or, like it wasn't readily on my phone anymore, like it normally had been. And so, of course, they couldn't get in contact with me at the time. So what the next step is that they call the police to come around and notify the next of kin, which was me. And so I get this, knock on my back door. The police officer came round to the back door and said, we're looking for, they said my full name. And they said, we'd like to inform you that your mother has passed away. And my grandmother had been a really big, huge part of my life. And so I wasn't sure if they meant my grandmother or my mother, right? So I loved them both, but I didn't know. And so the first thing I said to the guy was, what's her name? Which may have come across really weird. And then he said my mother's name. And of course she was very young when she passed away. So, she was, I'm just trying to think how old she was, because let me do the justice here for her. Okay. Okay, so she was just a few months away from her 50th birthday. So that's pretty young. Anyway, so they said my mum's full name, and I kind of fell down on my knees, because I wasn't, there was nothing wrong with her, as in physically wrong with her or anything. And so I fell down on my knees and cried like a, like a baby on the ground. And I'd never felt that kind of pain before. I didn't understand how ripping it would be, because it felt like my whole body just lost all of its energy, and it felt like I had this massive hole inside of me that would never be able to be okay again. And so somehow I gained the strength to go and, do the things that you have to do. Like I went and picked out the coffin, and thankfully I had some support from a beautiful auntie of mine. And she was always smiling, despite her feeling about it as well. She was really trying to be there for me, and with showing all this love and support. And I used music at the time. I can remember driving. I had to drive about 3 hours to go to the funeral home and pick out the coffin. And I'd actually decided to look at my mum's body as well, which was difficult, but I needed to do it. So anyway, I'm going to get back into attachment trauma, but I just want to give you this example so you understand. So anyway, I went down and I was sitting in a room full of, my family members, and I said, I want to see my mum, and I can remember the funeral director saying, well, she's only just kind of come back from the autopsy, and we haven't, she's not kind of prettied up, if you know what I mean. And I said, I don't care, I need to see her. I need to see her. Because I'd had to wait, I think it was about 9 days or something. I had to wait 9 days before they'd even released her. So I just wanted to see her. And so I walked in, and the man said, I'll leave you with her, and I walked in by myself because none of my other family would come with me. They were too afraid to see, because she wasn't all prettied up. There was kind of no rainbows and butterflies happening, you know what I mean? And I stood there and I said to her, how dare you do this without saying goodbye first? How dare you not say goodbye to me? Right? And I mean, I can laugh about it now because, it's a long time ago. We're in 2021. This was in 2009. And I said, you could have told me you were going to leave me, as if it was her fault. And I just said to her, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. Because she was, she'd always been a hero in my eyes because she had a really tough life, like a really, really tough life. So anyway, moving forward to this attachment trauma thing that we're going to talk about today. And I had another, I've got a doorbell on my gate now, right? So there was, I have, people arrive, couriers or whatever. And so that's a normal thing for the bell to go. And this other day, fast forward 11 years later, about 11 years later, and there's a policeman at the gate and he's ringing the doorbell. And I hadn't heard from my dad for a few days, and he had literally just come home from hospital and not been very well. And I, as a psychic medium, I kind of knew what it was going to be. And so I kind of put my head out the window and said, I'll be right with you, right? And I said, just come around the back, right? And then I can remember my heart started racing and I started feeling all of those symptoms. I call them symptoms that happened, when my mum passed away. And, my heart was racing and I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. It's too much, it's too painful. I can't do this, And then I made a decision in that moment that I wasn't going to let it affect me the way it had before. And so I knew it was going to take him a minute or two to come around the back or, it's probably only 30 seconds, but, to me, I'm like, I've got time before he gets here. I've got all this time in my mind. And at the time, I was really addicted to eating this fruitcake, It's just from the shop, kind of cheap-ass fruitcake that you can get. And I already had made a cup of tea, and I just took the biggest bite of this cake and I chewed it as quickly as I could to make myself feel better in that moment. And I could probably had crumbs all around my mouth when the guy came around the back, and he said, oh, I'm terribly sorry, I've got some unfortunate news, And of course I already knew what the news was going to be. Intuitively I knew that something was up because I couldn't get in contact with my dad. And so with my mum, I used music. It was, I don't know, I can't remember what I listened to, but it was, all of those women kind of songs that you can belt out loud. I think maybe Tina Arena and Madonna and any kind of songs that you can really belt out, more of an 80s 90s mix. And I was listening to all these different people in my car. Debbie Gibson would have been up there for sure, and Cher, of course, and I'd just sing, at the top of my lungs to get rid of the pain, And with my dad, it was fruitcake. I used fruitcake. So now, when I listen to music, in some kind of way, it connects me with my mum, and being able to cope with that. It's like, if I listen to music, I can cope. I can get through it. If I just have that right song, I'm sweet, and then of course fruitcake is another way that you can cope. And I guess, they're not really bad things that people grip onto. I mean, I could have gone to drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or, a whole lot of other things, but I didn't, because in my younger years, I did smoke cigarettes, and, I gave that up. So I was quite proud that I wasn't going to just take it up for the sake of it. And I've never been into alcohol at all. So that wasn't something I was willing to compromise on, because I'd seen a lot of people have tough times with alcohol, and, seen how it can affect people, physically and mentally, I guess, over the years. So what can happen in the twin flame journey is that, the divine feminine can have attachment trauma to some degree from, a few scenarios that have happened to her in her life, or maybe just one major one. The divine masculine has also got this as well. The divine feminine, because she is more emotional, she tends to want to grab on and hold something. So for me, I grabbed on and held on to my music. I grabbed on and held on to that fruitcake. For the divine masculine, he is kind of opposite. He kind of goes into protection mode and starts running a lot if something scares him. So, he may have had an experience with a girlfriend or something that didn't go the way he had planned, and he may have been hurt in the past, and so his first instinct, because he got attached to that person and it really broke his heart, let's say as an example, he might find it extremely difficult to fall in love again, because he doesn't want to get his heart broken. The divine feminine may have, these are just some examples we can use, but the divine feminine may have been neglected in some kind of way in her early childhood or middle or even, teenage years by her parents, let's say. Maybe she was ignored, maybe she was spoken to like they didn't care about her, lots of different things may have happened. And so when the divine masculine ignores her, this can be a trigger. This can really trigger her into this abandonment feeling. And so the divine feminine is capable of many times closing off her heart chakra so she doesn't get hurt, which is very dangerous to do. Don't do that. Or she may have a shopping addiction. That some divine feminines go shopping when they're stressed. They go, well, I'll just go and spend $899 on a new wardrobe. But in many cases, and after working with so many twin flames over the years, I do find that the divine masculine, because he's logical, he tries to shut it down. He's like, well, it's not logical to feel, so I'll just go and have a drink, or I'll just go and do that drug, or I'll just work harder. A lot of them use work. That's something I didn't write here. Work as something that people go to in the 3D physical reality. Some people go to work to make money, but some people also overwork themselves because they don't know what else to do to cope. So that's also an addiction. So I guess today I want you to ask yourself, do you have any 3D trauma attachments that you latch onto to make yourself feel better. There's healthy ones. You know, going for a walk in nature would be healthy. Doing meditation would be healthy. Doing a prayer would be healthy. I don't know, some people overcook, don't they? I guess that's not really an addiction, but it can be, I guess. I hate cooking, so I don't really understand people that bake. That's just something I've never really understood. I could eat. Overeating is a thing. Undereating's also a thing. People do that as well. So take a look at yourself today and just maybe with regards to your divine masculine, you know, are you attaching to them in some kind of way because of a trauma that you had in your childhood or in your early adulthood? It's really important to recognize why we do the things we do. You know, if he says he's going to call on Wednesday at 5 p.m. and he doesn't text either, you know, maybe your dad never used to show up. You know, maybe your mum and dad split up when you were little and your dad never used to show up, and so that creates an issue for you. It's like a trigger, you know. And this is why many twin flames want to leave the journey, because of so many triggers. You know, because sometimes it can feel like your counterpart's doing it on purpose. It's like, you know, even if you sat down and said, look, hey, you know, when I was a little girl, my dad wasn't around for me, and I couldn't depend on him. So, you know, it would be great if I could depend on you. Like if you say something and you say you're going to be there, can you please kind of be there? Otherwise, just shoot me a text and say no. Right? So that could be an example of how the twin flame journey can trigger the other. The other thing too is that when the divine masculine goes into using some kind of thing outside of himself in the 3D world, whether that's pornography, exercise, work, alcohol, drugs, prescription medications, or other people to cope, this is usually something that he doesn't notice himself, especially if he's not spiritual. So he may not notice that he has, you know, 2 extra drinks on a Monday night after he's argued with his karmic partner. He may not notice that, you know, that one time smoking marijuana on the weekends has grown into an uncontrollable pot habit that he's now kind of fighting on a daily basis. He may not realize that, you know, working 60 hours a week is doing him a disservice. You know, he's maybe got enough money, but just, you know, he finds like work just keeps him busy, so he doesn't have to work on himself. All right, so that's what I want to say about attachment trauma and why we get so triggered on the twin flame journey, because it can sometimes really feel like the counterpart is doing it on purpose, and you kind of want to go like this. Make that noise. Grab them, like, you know. I've actually got someone here today, someone new. Just give me a sec. I don't know if you all remember who this is. But this is Grumpy Bert, right? From Bert and Ernie, remember? He's saying hi. Look, hi. Hi. I don't know if I can remember Ernie going, hey Bert, hey Bert, hey Bert, on Sesame Street, right? But he is literally wearing his Sesame Street Police Department uniform, and he never changes out of that because he thinks it looks extremely sexy. But he's here to say hello today, and we've got some other characters that are going to be joining the gang here at Tarot for You 444. But today I really wanted to talk about attachment trauma as a really important topic. And for some of you, you might even be able to mention to your twin flame that they've got an issue going on. You know, you could say, did you realize that every Friday night after your mother tells you how crap you are, that you go and eat a whole pavlova and it's maybe not that good for your health? Or did you notice that you break out in spots every time that colleague at work tells you that your work was crap or something like that? So they're just a few points I want to bring up. But the other thing I want to talk about just briefly is that the divine feminine is having a really hard time when she goes through the dark night of the soul. Some of you are going through that right now, and some of you aren't. And so I want to tell you that you're going to be okay, and that you're going to get through that. And that also try not to use these kind of soothers that are bad for your health. So if you're having a difficult time, number one, first and foremost, you are more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'll try and give you some words of encouragement. My email is in the description box below. Number two, meditation and yoga and prayer, depending on, you might not be, you might not, if you're a twin flame, I think you generally believe in God or some kind of God. But these things, and especially going out into nature, I wanted to bring going out into nature up, because the human body, wow, said to resonate at 5 hertz. I think it's 5 hertz. And the earth actually resonates, the natural earth, not the concreted earth in the city, but the natural earth. So when you're, on the playground, or I know some of you still sliding down slippery dips, even when you're 49, right? I know what you do in your spare time. I'm a psychic medium, remember? Anyway, nature is at a frequency of 7. So if you're feeling crappy, go to the beach. Go to the ocean. Same thing. Beach and the ocean, the same thing. Donkey thinks that's funny. Also go and touch a tree. Put your feet in the dirt. The Earth's core has its own electromagnetic field, which is an endless supply of energy. And as we know, as humans, we kind of get tired and run down and things like that. So it's, when people go on holiday, which of course a lot of people haven't been able to go on holiday because of what's going on in the world, but when they go out into nature, or even it might just be some getaway or hideaway or something like that, but a cabin in the woods, wherever, they I'm laughing. I'll tell you why. Hang on. A cabin in the woods, because my other person I wanted to introduce you today to is Little Red Riding Hood, and she has obviously been to a cabin in the woods, but she has got, let me show you, can we see? I don't know if we're going to be able to see. Oh yeah, she's got fruit in her basket for grandma, and she's got this gorgeous little dress. I don't know, is it a little bit creased? I don't know, maybe she met her twin flame in the woods. Did you meet your twin flame in the woods? She's a little bit creased up right now, but can you see how pretty she is behind all of that, behind all of the cloak that she wears? Oh, and even look, I just noticed, and I didn't notice this before, but she's got beautiful, beautiful hair as well. All right, so obviously my attachment trauma is that I need to play with dolls and teddy bears. I don't know why I do that, but it works for me, so that's okay. All right, so oh no, hang on, she's molting, look. Dearie me, whoops, I ruined her hair. Goodness me, maybe I'll just eat one of her apples later. Do you think she'll mind? So anyway, welcome to the channel, Little Red Riding Hood and Bert. They are complete opposites, but they're here to stay. And of course, Barbie and Ken, I still have to find the right Barbie and the right Ken, because you know about the Barbie and the Ken frequency. I was talking about that the other day. So it's great to have Little Red Riding Hood and Bert here as part of the gang. Now, one more thing I wanted to say. Okay, so you know to reach out to me if you need to. That's perfectly fine. I talk to many, many twin flames on a daily basis, and I do not mind at all. I will probably recommend one of my services to you if you talk with me. Unless you say, look, I'm just looking for some words of encouragement, and then I'm more than happy to put you on my prayer list and give you that as well. You know, depending on how my time allows. You know, I'm here because I care, and I'm here because a lot of the things I talk about haven't been talked about before in the same way as I understand them to be true. So my perception of the twin flame journey is trying to come at it from a very childlike, very loving, very peaceful point of view. You know, I wouldn't suggest, you know, trying to come at it in a 3D perspective. However, we do need to incorporate the 3D perspective into it because we live, as far as I know, I'm living in a body. Right. So we are literally here on the earth plane, and so there are things that we need to deal with in the 3D. So of course it's a spiritual connection. It's a 5D connection. It's a beautiful, blissful, wonderful third eye to third eye, heart to heart, wonderful connection. But we also need to know what to do in the 3D. And for most twin flames, especially twin flames in separation, attachment trauma is going to be something that they will completely understand. Either because their divine masculine is acting in a certain way, or because they act in a certain way. You know, quite often too, I had other topics to discuss, but I'll just finish off attachment trauma. I think that's enough for today. So quite often the divine feminine in the beginning stages of the journey, she's like, and why won't divine masculine talk to me? And she doesn't realize kind of how attached to him she is. But I don't teach to detach, because I think detachment is the wrong word. And that's when I came up with my Barbie and Ken frequency the other day. So if you haven't heard that video, the thumbnail or the picture on that video is Barbie and Ken in the Holy Land, right? So I want you to see what I mean by the Barbie and Ken frequency. Because no matter what your twin flame is doing in the third dimensional reality, you can still be doing whatever you're doing in your third dimensional reality, and keeping your heart space open at the same time. You know, I did want to share that song, you know, by Aqua, AQUA, which I might do today on the community post. So it's Aqua singing, I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Woo! Imagination. Life is your creation. And then the guy who's playing Ken goes, come on Barbie, let's go party. And she's going, yeah. But I won't sing it. I'll share it today. So that's the kind of mood that we want to stay in. It's like if the divine masculine doesn't come in, we're okay anyway. You know, we're dressing up in that outfit for the day, you know, whether we're a mum or a, you know, take gender how it resonates. But, you know, whether you're a mum or a dad or a business person or, you know, a stay-at-home anything, entrepreneur, you know, whatever you are, it doesn't matter what you are. You've got many hats that you fill, you know, you've got a friendship hat, you've got a work hat, you've got a parenting hat, And so, just like Barbie, you've got different outfits, or just like Ken, you've got different outfits and different roles that you play within your world. And so I invite you to try and enjoy those things. I invite you to follow your joy in each and every moment, because one thing that I've really learned over the last, I would say, 11 years is that, every day we have is sacred. Every day we have is special. If I could bring my mum back for a day and have a conversation with her, I would. And it's the same with my dad and my nan as well, because she passed away as well. In between, my mum passed away, then my nan, and then my dad. But so the people that I used to talk with and go to, I can't do that with anymore. And of course I was very close to my mum and my nan, and in the later years, I would speak with my dad, not so much when I was a child, but in the later years I would speak with my dad. And so if you're listening today, Divine Masculine, wink wink, ready? The Divine Feminine comes from that place of feeling everything. So she kind of needs to understand why, if you love her and you feel something for her, why would you waste a day and not come and see her? Like, she doesn't understand, because the Divine Feminine would literally finish work early and, I don't know, get up 3 hours earlier if you lived on different continents. She'd be willing to make all these sacrifices, and so she kind of doesn't understand why the Divine Masculine won't do the same in many cases. And so I'm here to tell you that, when you find that person that you love, make no hesitation to let them know. If I had have had an extra day with my mother, I would have made sure, over the years I told her I loved her and told her I cared about her, but I would have said, hey Mum, you did a great job in your life. I'm so proud of you. I really missed you. I love you. I would have told her all these, I don't know, I would have rambled on. I would have kept talking, because I'm good at doing that. But it's the same with my nan and my dad. If I could have them back for a day and tell them how much I love them, I would. So today, maybe, as well as learning about attachment trauma, maybe go and tell the people that you love them today. Okay, because every day is a blessing. Every day is sacred. And sometimes we can get into our mind and into our ego, which is the actual devil, in my opinion. So tell those people around you that you love them. Whether that's a friend or your kids or your auntie or your uncle or your best friend or your dog or your cat. Tell them that you love them. Okay. And understand that, most of us have some kind of attachment trauma. Okay. We're either attaching onto something outside of ourselves, a person, or a food group, or drugs, alcohol, exercise, porn, work, gossip, as a soother so that we can get through. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to reach outside of ourselves to soothe. We want to reach inside and find ourselves to soothe. Going to God is great too. Whoever you believe in, Buddha, Allah, God, I don't know, who else is there? Robin Hood, I was going to say Robin Hood. I don't know why that's coming through. Maybe someone likes watching that movie. But, whoever it is for you, whoever your creator is for you, it might just be source energy, but connect to that as much as you can, and you really feel a change and a big shift. And then stay in the Ken and Barbie frequency. And if you need help doing that, that's why I made my Ascension course and my Twin Flame package. My manifesting course helps you energetically come into, attracting the energy of your twin flame, And then of course my Magic 20, which is brand new to the channel and I love it so much. The Magic 20 is where you get to ask me 20 questions about your twin flame situation, and I'll spend 2 hours on video just like this talking to you and explaining to you how you should behave in the 3D if you don't want them to run away too far, you know, like Little Red Riding Hood wanted to run away when that wolf was with Grandma. But isn't she so pretty? I don't know how we're going to stop her from molting though. How do we not pull out the hair? Because I so want to just do this all day. Look at that. Ready? Look how fun that is. Maybe that's something that I need to work on. That's like an addiction. Pulling curly hair needs to be added to the list. All right, I love you all so much. Don't forget, if you need me, I'm always here for you. I love you all so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, thumbs up, whatever you do that's nice and kind and loving. And I'll see you real soon. I hope you have a beautiful day, night, afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are in the world. And mwah, kisses from Donkey. Bye. Bye for now. Bye.